All right, so welcome everybody. I'm glad that everyone could join us today. Again, we're AIOG, and the point of today's seminar is to not only learn how to use LinkedIn as a networking tool, but also to get to know more of our team. All of you are pretty familiar with Britt and I, but we have a whole team working with us, and I hope you get to know them. So we're gonna talk about using LinkedIn as a networking tool. So what will we discuss today? We will talk about LinkedIn and some facts about the platform. We'll talk about how to get the most out of LinkedIn, as well as creating and building your brand. We'll talk about skills, endorsements, and recommendations, and finally, how to network using LinkedIn.
So I'll first start by talking about what is LinkedIn and why you should have one. My name is Dominique, by the way. I'm a second year. So LinkedIn is a professional social media page. It's almost like your digital resume. It's quite different than most of the other social medias. People are still active on LinkedIn, but they don't use it the same way. They often post less, but it's a great way to demonstrate your knowledge, credibility, and leadership experience. It can connect you with other people and allows key decision making and allows recruiters to see your profile. So it's great for things like job hunting, consulting, connecting with others in science or who have similar interests. And so the next slide, I'll talk about some info about LinkedIn. So here are some just LinkedIn facts. And this graphic is showing kind of the breakdown of users and registered members. So there's a large number of registered members. A lot of them are in the United States, but they're all over the country and globe. And there's over 260 million active monthly users. And then within that, 20 million companies. There's also 14 million open job postings usually. So it's a great resource for job hunting. And an interesting fact is that 90% of recruiters regularly use LinkedIn. So this is a great way for you to find jobs, and it's also a great way for employers and recruiters to find people. Employees sourced through LinkedIn are 40% less likely to leave the job company within the first 6 months. And 122 million people received an interview through LinkedIn based on a 2017 study. So it's a really great job hunting resource, and people use it actively to post and engage with others, but also job hunt. And then now I'm going to talk a little bit about getting the most out of LinkedIn and how to use it. So some things LinkedIn can be used for, as I mentioned, it can be for networking, building connections, staying in touch with former colleagues or associates. So it's a great way if you have a good connection from a previous job or internship or something to keep in contact. Finding an internship or job, following companies and exploring careers, seeking career advice, or building or promoting your brand, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. And then some tips for best use. You always want to keep LinkedIn professional. As I mentioned, it's kind of different than other social media sites, so it's more set for the job environment. And also, it's great to keep your profile up to date and complete. So even when you aren't actively job searching, you want to keep your info relevant and up to date. You can connect and chat with other professionals. You can post and engage with other users and also use LinkedIn groups. Like for example, Academia Industry Opportunities Groups has our own group and page on LinkedIn, so you should follow us.
So now I'm going to talk a little bit about building your brand. Since COVID happened, and I think people were using LinkedIn obviously before, but now it's become really a powerful tool to get yourself out there, especially if you're job hunting or just sort of trying to see what you want to do after your degree, or your training period in general, if you're thinking about doing something outside of academia or maybe still inside. So building a personal brand is important because, now that there's as Dominic said, millions of people on there, you need to cater to what you can bring to the table. And so some of the things that you should really reflect on when you're creating your profile are some of the skills you've achieved in your position that you have or just finished, and your wins, the things that you can say honestly that you've really mastered. And that could be lab technique or other things, and we'll talk about that in the next slide. Some other questions you should consider is what you loved about your job, or what do you want to get out of your next job, and how are you going to get to that point. And so building that brand it's important to be very specific. So next, you can just keep going. And so part of the things that you're going to use to create your brand is your picture. And so online it says to make sure it's not a selfie and that you're using a good profile picture that includes your face and shoulders, that is unpixelated, and that you smile. You don't have to be like full-fledged like this guy, but you can at least like look pleasant. Plus, I think studies have shown that people who look semi-pleasant, you know, that's a receptive thing. It's just like nice, cordial, like a electronic handshake, you know, this is who I am, look at me, you know. To tailor your profile to searches. Like any search engine, that is weighted by the words that you use to describe yourself. So be positive and be passionate if that is how you want to convey yourself. Use the description specifically. Some people use emojis, or you actually see if you go on just to look at what other people say, it says their name and then underneath like a little like a sentence of descriptive words that people want to use to convey what they have to share. You can say that you're a scientist or that you're a really good programmer or something. You can use facts and figures. This was something we saw online too, where you can say that you accomplished a certain thing over a period of time, sort of give you your own statistics as an employee. And highlight your greatest accomplishments and try to avoid a technical jargon. You're interfacing with a whole population of people that don't necessarily understand what you do. So there are places in your profile to be specific and get into that kind of thing if you wanted to, but try to keep it sort of like lay audience. And to share if you have profiles outside of LinkedIn, like your website, for something to showcase your articles or some other parameter that you have that you've been doing, just share that on there, because that is a great place to promote yourself. Next. All right, so some of the things you might be asking yourself, well, what should I include to stand out? And we try to come up with a list of things, but it's not exclusive to this. So if you've attended any other career development seminars, some people try to make the distinction between organic or soft skills versus your hardcore science skills. And so project management is some of the things, one of the skills you may have learned during your PhD or your postdoc, and that was sort of like an organic thing that you learned as you were doing your science. Then there's like specific programming languages or foreign languages you might, if you know them, you should share that with people. If you know how to do web design, if you've done any teaching experience, lab techniques, of course, leadership. Emotional intelligence, this has become something that's popping up a lot more that people are talking about. So it's not just about what you can do, it's about you and the environment. And so you want to make sure you can convey that you're, mindful if you are, or you're able to really work as a team. We're all very independent during our science research. So, we know that about people, but like, it's also important to share that you're also a team player and you can work together to achieve common goals. If you have negotiation skills, public outreach, if you're good at scientific illustration or data visualization, statistics, and then communications. We're talking about presenting, if you've gone to conferences, been asked to give an oral presentation, among other different types of communications. And then you should, include some of the specifics that you've done in your past position. This sort of gives a bigger picture about, you as an individual and your experiences and your skills that you bring to the table. You can include presentations and videos. Some people have videos of them giving talks places. You can share that on your, or provide a link to like a YouTube channel that shows that you're in action describing your science to different audiences. So, really use your profile to like share all these components, because it sort of gives like it's like a better version of a resume in the sense you can add all these other things. It sort of gives you more depth than just a page or a face.
So now I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about LinkedIn do's. Can you hear me? Okay, perfect. And some of the things that you want to really think about including in your profile, or some tips for things that you should do, while you're editing your profile, is one thing is that it's really important to spell check and like check it a couple times. Or if you have a friend that's like willing to help you out, you should have them check it, because fresh eyes are also good. Another thing that you really want to think about doing is if you're going to reach out to someone, that you should respond promptly to them, or if someone reaches out to you, that, you know, it's courteous to respond promptly. So again, 1 to 2 days is what it's mostly recommended for. Another hint that I found really useful, which I didn't think about, is that when you're updating your profile, you want to make sure that you turn off your notifications, because apparently while you're updating your profile, some of your contacts will just get continual updates that like this person updated their profile. So like if you're going to go in and do like a complete overhaul of what your LinkedIn looks like, you should probably turn these notifications off as to not annoy other people. And then finally, you need to know that LinkedIn isn't anonymous. This seems like it should go without saying, but certain things on LinkedIn are a little bit different from other social media sites. So like save the stalking for Facebook, and that, you know, when you're logged into your LinkedIn, that other people can see that you look at their profiles or can see that your messages are. And again, we're really focusing on keeping this professional. So just know that anything that you do on LinkedIn, others can probably see. I know maybe more arguably the more important stuff is the stuff that you really should avoid doing, and that's connect with someone before you research who they are. So make sure that if you're going to reach out and ask someone to connect with them on LinkedIn, that you know them, and that if they ask you why you want to connect, that you have a real answer for them. Next, you're going to want to edit your join my network message. So there's always a default that's set there. And unless you really know someone, I would also recommend updating this. We're going to talk a little bit more about ways to do this later on in the presentation, but usually the default isn't necessarily the route you want to take. And the other thing is sending messages to a group of people. So you want to make sure that you deselect that as an option. It's kind of the same thing like that happens with an email. Like they'll be able to see that you send this message to everyone. So if you're looking to like connect with people for jobs, it's probably best to not have everyone that you want to get a job with in the same group message. A couple more things is, I know that we talked about this kind of being your self-promotion, but it's really important that you're not just, you know, self-bragging. There's a bit of a difference. You want to explain yourself and you want to give a good picture of yourself, but you definitely don't want to be, you know, a little bit overzealous, and you don't want to just talk yourself up. Definitely give yourself props and post your successes, but, you know, also be humble. Also, don't post faulty links. So what you want to make sure is that before you post the link, that the link you're using is the most up-to-date and that it works. Otherwise, it kind of gives a bad look that you don't really focus on what you're posting or don't care what you're posting, unlike on some other social media sites. And then also don't allow your profile to be stagnant. So this is saying, you know, a post or two a week. I don't think that's too much to ask for, especially when you're actively searching. Maybe when you're inactively searching, it might be a little bit less active, but definitely at least try to log on. It'll keep you in the search algorithms. So if you are looking for sites or want to be seen, looking for jobs or want to be seen, that you'll actually come up in people's searches.
So another feature of LinkedIn is LinkedIn Premium. And something I found out when researching about this is actually 39% of users use LinkedIn Premium. And so this is a paid feature, and it's really great for job hunting, if you're actively searching, if you want to get a little more out of LinkedIn. And just for pricing, the general users start at $24.95 per month, and job seekers can start as low as $19.95 per month. But there are some extra features that you can access with LinkedIn Premium, including InMail, which is a slightly different communication system. You have expanded searches, so you might be able to see more jobs, see more opportunities. There are premium search filters to help you narrow down your job search. Expanded profile views, so you can probably access more people, and also see who's viewed your profile. So with just the regular account, you can see usually connections who view your profile or people close to you, but there are sometimes if recruiters or other people outside of your network view your profile, you won't know who it is. They have a feature which is a profile organizer. You can do save search alerts, reference searches, and easier introductions and connections. So LinkedIn Premium, I wouldn't recommend for just a general user if you're just looking to kind of get into it. But if you are actively job searching or looking for internship or really trying to connect and build your brand, it's something to consider. And they do offer a free trial. I get notifications about it all the time. So if you ever wanted to check it out, it's definitely something you could look into.
Sorry, guys, I was muted. So hi, I'm Lee. I'm a 5th year PhD student. So I will talk about skills and recommendations on the LinkedIn. So I will start with talking about skills. What are they? So skills are showcase of your ability to other members. And for LinkedIn, it allows maximum 50 different skills. And once you put your skills in, LinkedIn would automatically sort them into categories. So for example, in this case, LinkedIn sorts my skills into like industry knowledge, for example, the different type of microscopy, and like tools and technology that includes all the software that I know, and also soft skills in the interpersonal skills. So LinkedIn allows your network to endorse for your skills. So for example, I get 10 endorsement for my skills using Python. So why do you want endorsement? So endorsement will strengthen your profile. It's like your network is in, sorry, can we go back to the previous slide? Sorry. Your endorsement strengthen your profile and also increase your visibility of your profile. However, it is not clear whether this is very helpful in job searching. So it is debated whether recruiters actually use skills, because a lot of endorsement are not necessarily from people that are skilled or even know me very well. This is a clear different points between skills and recommendations that we'll talk in 2 slides. Can you go to the next slide? Right. So for LinkedIn, LinkedIn will automatically highlight 3 of your most visible skills. That's your top 3 skills shown on this slide. So other skills, they will be folded. So unless people click on the show more, which is shown on the screenshot as well, other skills will be hidden. Your top skills are the most visible one, and they are the most likely to be endorsed. So for example, if I make a new connection, LinkedIn will automatically ask my new connection to endorse any of my top 3 skills. So what do you want to put on your top 3 skills? Well, it depends on what you are looking for. It depends on, for example, I'm in a job hunting process. It depends on what job I'm looking for. That will change like what the top 3 skills that I will put on. However, it is generally recommended that it's better to put transferable skills for the top 3 one, because most of the jobs requires a very steep learning after you start the job. So transferable skills are what you actually can bring and can use in your new job. So what are the sought after transferable skills for PhDs? So this would include PhDs analytical and problem solving skills, as well as like interpersonal and leadership skills. One skills that are less sought by PhD is actually project management skills. So think about PhD thesis, how you do your research and how you finish your thesis is actually a huge project management. So this is also something that you could put on for the skills and for the skills. Right, can you go to the next slide? Right, so let's talk about recommendations as we mentioned before. So what is a recommendation? A recommendation is a written testimonial that is added to your profile by a connection, and it will state why you are professionally worth working with. So for each recommendation that is written by your connections, you could either accept them, dismiss them, or ask for a revision. So why do you want recommendations? Because then compared to endorsement, because recommendation is much stronger than endorsement. It adds more value, and it actually tells the people who look at your LinkedIn profile why you are worth working. So for example, in this case, it is written by someone to Danielle about she as a student, and it talks about details about their interactions, and this shows that the person who wrote it knows her and can has a very strong point to stand up to back her up. Next. Okay.
All right, so now I'm going to talk about networking. I think everyone knows who I am at this point. I'm Rob. I'm a fifth-year graduate student at UConn in the neuroscience department, and I'm one of the founders of AIOG. So I'm going to talk about networking on LinkedIn. So prior to the pandemic, people actually used to gather in rooms to meet people, and that's not really possible anymore. So now we've resorted to meeting people on LinkedIn. And so LinkedIn is a professional tool, as you guys are learning, to connect with like-minded people. So some things to keep in mind when you're networking with people is that you want to make a strong impression, and you should connect with them on common ground, or you can connect with them via a shared connection. When you go to a networking event, you might go with a friend and say, oh, this person knows you through company X, and I'm really interested in what you're doing at this particular company. Can we connect on LinkedIn that way? But now that you're not meeting in person, you need to do your homework beforehand before you ask them to connect with you on LinkedIn. If they're at a particular company, maybe learn a little bit about the company, why you want to know them, why you're talking to them. Is it so you can learn more about the company? Do you want to know them because they went to the same university as you, or you're planning on going to that university? Be specific on why you want to connect. And when you connect with these people, there are some things that this website called Mailshake suggests, and they call it the 5 Ps. You want to be polite, you want to be pertinent, you want to be personal, professional, and praiseworthy. So you want to keep these things in mind when you reach people. You should use good language. Make sure you spell check. Be concise, which I'll talk about on the next slide. And, you kind of want to, it's almost like you're kind of playing into their own ego, right? Like, why should they connect with you? You're just some stranger, right? So make it worth it for them, I guess, to connect. So when I say concise, it's because LinkedIn gives you a 300 character limit. So it's just slightly bigger than a couple tweets, right? And so that advice is great, but if you're only limited to 300 characters, that could be difficult. So I put some examples together of some messages that you could send. In this case, this one's a message sent by John to a person named Jan, and they connected on common ground. So they met at a seminar, and they wanted to learn more about ABC solutions and to stay up to date on their company. So that's one example that you could use. It's concise, and they know why they're connecting with that person. Another example is a mutual connection. So this is Abby connecting with someone named Mike, and their mutual connection is Jim Clark, who's a CEO at 123 Packaging Inc., and how they know Jim and why you're reaching out to that person to connect. And it's because Jim spoke highly of Mike. And so they're asking to connect on a network so they could support each other. And lastly, there's this example of, again, connecting on common ground. In this case, they both went to the same university, Clemson University. So this is Mark reaching out to Jack. And so they both graduated from Clemson University at different times. And they wanted to connect kind of like an alumni network sort of thing. So you're connecting on common ground, and you're being polite and praiseworthy, and you should just keep these things in mind when you're meeting people on LinkedIn. As with anything, some of these are repeated from before, but there are some do's and don'ts. So let's look at the do's column. You should choose your groups carefully. You can join groups on LinkedIn, things that cover common ground. But there are some bad groups out there. So you should be careful, like verify that the group is real. It's not like a fake news group. Be active on LinkedIn. If you just kind of use it once a month and you just kind of, I'll get this on the right side, but blanket connect. If you're not active and you're just like going through once a month, it's like, oh, I need to add 30 connections because someone told me that's good to do every month. It's not going to be useful for you. You should be thoughtful on LinkedIn. And part of being thoughtful is you can link meaningful videos. It is a social media page. So you don't want to say like, oh, I had a really great dinner at X and this is a picture of some bread that I ate. It's not Facebook, it's not Twitter, it's not Instagram, but maybe you went to a really cool conference or you saw something that inspired you. Maybe it was like a statue or something, and give something, you know, be meaningful. You want to treat your profile as a brochure. So this is your personal brand for the outside world. Like if someone doesn't know you, you want this to be representative of who you are. As Lee mentioned, you want to get testimonials and endorsements. Don't get just these blanket endorsements, I guess. You can ask your friends to be like, oh, this person's good at this. But you should get endorsements from people who might be experts in that, right? And include, because all of you are scientists, I'm pretty sure, you want to include publication URLs in your project section. So you have an opportunity to show projects that you've worked on. If a publication resulted from that project, you should include it. More importantly, the don'ts. So I mentioned blanket connect. Don't just go through every month and click on 30 people that you want to connect with. It's not helpful. That's connected with don't tout unknown connections. Like, I feel like people on Facebook use it as like, oh, I have 2,547 friends. That's not important for LinkedIn. And that'll be evident if someone mutual with you sees that you're connected with X. And maybe this person just accepted you for whatever reason. And then they start digging into it, and then you find out that you actually don't know that person and they don't actually know you. That's not helpful at all. Don't be self-indulgent. Be active. Don't spam users. Again, it's not like Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. You don't want to bombard people's LinkedIn page with a bunch of posts. This one I thought was really funny because I see this a lot on people's profiles, create verbiage combinations that nobody understands. And the example that I found was somebody wrote, strategically powering visionary organizations to develop their potential untapped enlightenment. So you should make an attempt to use simple language and recognize business terms that actually mean something. And lastly, don't view LinkedIn as a chore. If you're just, oh, I have to check LinkedIn this week, make it part of your routine, especially if you're going to go on the market. Make sure your LinkedIn stays up to date. Don't say it's like, oh, it's been a year, I should change everything now. As life events happen, make an effort to make those changes now. And lastly, as we wrap up the session before we take questions, I urge you all to take a look at our LinkedIn page, our AIOG group. This is our website on the right side, ctaiog.com. It's our blog site. We have event posts and blog posts about various topics, as well as interviews with featured scientists. We do have a Facebook page at Beyond the PhD, and this is our email information. And these are all the people that you've met today. We've really grown the group over the last 2 years, and we're continuing to grow the group. And so now I'm gonna solicit, and hopefully we can get other people to join us. This is a snapshot from our blog, our AIOG website. And we're looking for people to join our team. If you are a Twitter enthusiast, we're looking for an AIOG Twitter operator. Just an idea, at Beyond the PhD could be our handle. We're also looking for people who are interested in design. So people who are good at making graphics, or people who can manage content. If you like writing, we're always looking for people to write things. And overall, maybe you don't know what you want to do for the team, but we're looking for enthusiastic individuals to join our group. But if you're interested in joining us, please reach out to any of us. We would all be happy to talk